Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah, hayya ala falah, hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Walillahi alhamd. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب واحلم حياج الله إواجه أكمده سبحانه وتعالى وأشكره وهو أهل حمد وثانا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ومصطفى اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك Muhammadan wa ahlihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah bil alameen. We thank Allah Almighty always for everything.
Ameen.
You know, because people underestimate Allah Almighty. They think that through their own mentality, they only understand Allah Almighty through their own thinking process. And so Allah is limited in terms of what Allah is able to do for them. So when they feel down, they think that Allah Almighty is down. And when they up, they think Allah Almighty is up. And when they do something good that they think about it doing in life, they think they've been blessed to do that. If they do something that's stupid, then they think that Allah did it. So we don't have the right kind of mentality about Allah Almighty. Here's a dua that the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to make and see. And this is what people don't understand, that it's a real thing, because during his time, the people used to be in anxiety. The people used to grieve. The people used to be in debt. The people were lazy. The people was, needed, their morality was bad. So he prayed, just like today. The people were going through the same kinds of things. This is some of the supplications or du'as that he used to make. He used to say, "Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from anxiety and grief. I seek refuge in you from incapacity and laziness. And I seek refuge in you from overcoming of debt and overpower of people. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from poverty except to you, from humiliation except for you, and from fear except from you. Oh Allah, I seek in you from the false testimony or committing immorality or provoking you. And I seek refuge in you from malice of the enemies and from pneumatic diseases and from despair of hope. Oh Allah, I seek in you from the wicked people, from the worries of livelihood, and from the ill nature. Oh Allah, you are the mercy of the mercies, and you are the Lord of the universe." Amen. You have to understand that everybody in all times goes through the same thing. Amen. But you have to seek refuge in Allah Almighty from being lazy, from being in despair, from being in poverty. These are things that Allah Almighty allowed to be set up so that we can be able to seek refuge in Him, to have Him removed. To accept that is unacceptable. To accept poverty is unacceptable. To accept laziness is unacceptable. Purification is half of our faith. We should keep our minds clean. We should keep our bodies clean. We should keep our souls clean. Because purification is half of the faith. When we are purified, we feel the vibrations of angels. Our minds are clear. The shaitan does not attack us as easily because he doesn't like to come in clean environments. This is why you keep your mind clean. This is why you keep your body clean. Don't bathe every other week. Bathe every day. Put on perfumes. Clean your mind every day. Sit and think. Clean your mind out. We don't think about cleanliness in that way. Cleanliness is half of our faith. Purification is half your faith. It takes you to another level. It takes you from darkness to light. People go around and they smell themselves, and when you smell yourself, you can believe that everybody else has smelled you 100 times. This has it has a bad influence on your mentality about bad smells. This is why when you come to Jumah, you bathe before you come to Jumah. You put on oils of perfumes so you can smell good. You're sitting in lines with people. You don't want nobody to sniff a bad smell and be distracted by shaitan. So you have to realize that you can't be lazy. Lazy people end up in hellfire. Hellfire in the way of their economics, in the way of their relationships, in the way of their health, in the way of everything. They end up last. You have to work. You have to have an energy. And you always have to be putting that energy into something constructive and something positive all the time. Even to go to Hajj, it takes money. You got to make money to go to Hajj. Then when you're on Hajj, you ain't sleeping that much on Hajj. You're not sleeping that much. You up and you're worshiping. You're thinking about Allah Almighty. Everybody's going to be dead longer than they're alive. So, Allah allows us to worship so that when we leave this life, we never ever have to have to worry about dying again. You only die one time. Some people just keep coming back. Some people, that's just the way it is. Because Allah Almighty's representatives, they always got to be present. Always they got to be present. Always, because we fall down. And they have to be among us to bring us up, to remind us. Clean your mind, clean your body, clean your soul, clean your heart. Don't be lazy, don't be crazy. Keep striving. Don't give up. Always somebody got to be around us to say, keep moving, keep it moving. And they have to be examples of that. Otherwise we fall back and shaitan gets the better of us. And we hear the whole doggone city should be crowded up in here. We don't see the value of what it is that Allah Almighty is bringing to us. Allah Almighty sends messengers in the form of angels, and He sends messengers in the form of human beings. All the time to remind us what it is that Allah Almighty is requiring for us. And one of the biggest sins that we could ever have is to be lazy. That is the biggest sin, laziness. Because laziness brings about neglect, disrespect. You have to be steadfast in everything. So many things are happening. But Allah shows us through history that regardless of what has been happening, Allah Almighty's people that were connected to Allah Almighty, that were steadfast, they always won out regardless of what the odds were against them in all situations. Allah shows us that. Moses and his brother, the staff, went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh had an established civilization and was building on the civilization. Allah sent a stutterer See, the thing is that we fail to realize that Allah Almighty is Allah Almighty. We don't really get it that Allah Almighty, anything that we see, everything we do, everything we can think, it is Allah Almighty bringing it. We think that we see something that is not in our power to deal with it. It cannot be dealt with. That's setting up partners to Allah Almighty. That's why Allah Almighty always sends from human beings, and He also sends from angels to represent what it is that we are able to do. One person, Allah can send one person to shut the whole world down. What about a city? What about a state? What about a country? If Allah can send one person to shut everything down, He's always done that. Allah has always sent someone to shut it down so that the people will realize that Allah Almighty has power over all things. We forget that. We fall into this lazy mentality. When Allah sends guidance among us, we take the guidance lightly. Oh, I'll do it when I feel like doing it. No, you do it when the guidance brings us. The guidance is to do it when the guidance comes. Otherwise, we miss out. When Dawood alayhi salam and the rest of them went to Goliath to bring Goliath down, it was many of them before they're going to get Goliath. Many of them. Dawood at the time was just a sheep herder. Talut was the king at that time. But a doggone sheep herder was able to kill Goliath to bring about their respect back to humanity. Humanity had lost their respect. Shaitan had taken over in the person of the people that left their post, that left Allah Almighty, that stopped believing. They became lazy. So they became crazy. Because they were not growing. They were not listening to guidance. Guidance always comes in the person of someone. Allah always have representatives for guidance. How else can we know? But we neglect to hear and obey guidance. So what happens is that is not guided begins to rule those who would be the guidance if they had not lost their faith. This is what's happening in the world now. No guidance. Everybody's running to the Pope. Why? We've lost the continuum of what Allah Almighty sent. But Allah may use anybody to do anything. We're the ones that's here, and so we're the ones that's responsible. Don't think that you're not responsible, and you cannot look at the fact that, oh, I'm just one person. Oh, I'm just a human being. Oh, I don't have the wherewithal. I don't have the means of doing anything. You do. You have Allah Almighty. We couldn't even be in existence if Allah Almighty wasn't in us. But we block the power. Because we're not listening and hearing and living guidance. We're not doing it. A sheep herder comes from his sheep with no armor. He had no armor. Dawood had no armor at all. All he had was a slingshot. He killed a giant with a slingshot, No, he knocked the giant down with a slingshot, then took the giant's sword and cut his head off. This was someone who was believing in their Lord in themselves. They saw themselves as someone that Allah Almighty had created from a sperm drop and had placed, after so many months of gestation, a soul in them that was Allah Almighty's power in them. They nurtured that power. They believed in that power. So when Allah Almighty called, they didn't hesitate. They came to do it. They says, look, all I need is Allah Almighty, and I just need a slingshot. A slingshot killed the doggone giant. Everybody was scared of. Armies and armies and armies. This giant had just wiped armies out. Some kid with a slingshot that was connected to Allah Almighty in his belief killed him with a stone. And what did he do? He told him. It's by the leave of Allah Almighty I was able to do it. Like Isa ibn Maryam said, by the leave of Allah Almighty, I was able to bring the dead back to the living. I was able to bring the table spread from heaven. I was able to do this by Allah Almighty's leave. I didn't listen to my ego. I didn't listen to Shaitan. I was hearing and obeying that in me that is greater than me. So those people, they don't despair because they are outnumbered. Or it seems like it's insurmountable. It's a joke. Because Allah, there's nothing greater than Allah Almighty. But Allah Almighty hides himself. Allah hides himself. Allah Almighty is the greatest. And we looking at shapes and forms, and we think that the shapes and forms are just greater than anything that we could think of. But that's why we losers. That's why we're a day late and a dollar short all the time. That's why that happens. So we're asking Allah Almighty to help us, because we really, it's our connection to Allah Almighty through the Rasul that we're missing. As long as we're in our egos, we ain't going to do nothing. Ain't going to die doing nothing. And won't be raised up. Why? Because we didn't do nothing. We're asking Allah Almighty not to be like those. On Allah Almighty brought his wrath on. From Allah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, walillahi alhamd. Alhamdulillah bil alamin, wa salatu wa salamu ala karim muslim, Muhammad nabiyyi wa akhihi wa sahbihi. Alhamdulillah bil alamin, we thank Allah Almighty always for every opportunity to shout it out that there's no God but Allah Almighty. There's nothing superior over Allah Almighty. And anything else is like anything else. Under Allah Almighty's will. Allah Almighty's servants see that. And when they're on something, Allah guides them on something, they stay on it until they finish it. The belief is in Allah Almighty and ourselves. Allah doesn't expect us to believe in Himself outside of ourselves. How can we relate to something that's outside of ourselves? We can only relate to what's in ourselves. You couldn't relate to your bones if you didn't have bones in you. You couldn't relate to your brain if you didn't have a brain in you. You couldn't relate to eyes if you didn't have them. You couldn't relate to a soul if you didn't have a soul. Where does it come from? Allah Almighty. Physical body comes from the earth. Our soul comes from Allah Almighty. But we give more power to our earthly self than our spiritual self. And that's why we suffer And Allah Almighty lets, the wrath of that is that Allah Almighty lets everything get out of control. And because we have allowed ourselves not to believe in Allah Almighty, we believe that all that we see is superior to who we are and whose we are. This is why we don't talk to people. This is why we don't bring people. This is why our lives are shambles. This is why we busted, disgusted, and can't be trusted. This is why we're miserable. The misery comes from us. No one can give us more misery than us. Even Shaitan cannot give us more misery than us. Because even Shaitan says, I have no power over you. All I do is whisper. Now if you listen to me, you see me as superior to you, then that's what I want you to think. And Allah chastises us because He says, no. Told Shaitan to bow down to our grandfather Adam. And he didn't. He's been cursed ever since. So anyone listen to him gets what he gets. Cursed. But Allah Almighty, everything is perfected. Allah Almighty, everything has gotten out of order. So when Allah Almighty lets things get so far out of order that people start to lose their hope and they start to really start to get crazy, Allah Almighty always raise up a people and not be like those who left their posts and bring it back to order again. Amen. Once again, over again. Like He always do. And we're asking to be with those people. Woman, Allah, Tawfiq, Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. Ameen. Qad kamala salat.